guest for the podcast, Academia Șamanică Spirit of the Incas podcast, is David Lederman. David, please, thank you for accepting to be part of this, and please tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell me and the public a little bit about yourself, and how did you first get in contact with this medicine?
So a little bit about myself. I spent 20 years. Oh, someone's going to come in here. So I first came to the wheel in an interesting way. I actually spent 20 years working in IT, in user experience, and so that's a fancy way, for those of you who don't know, making websites easier to use, working with different teams and trying to see why certain things don't fit together and so forth. And towards the end of my career in that, I started looking at what you might call the user experience of life, and I started coming across all these different bodies of wisdom, Kriya Yoga, Native American perspectives, things of that sort. I was always intrigued by shamanism, but if I'm being honest, a part of me was like, I don't know, it's a little out there, and so I think it just kind of waited for me. And during, what was it, 2022 actually, yeah, last year was my first wheel, this is my second wheel. Early on in the year, I was feeling, it was the end of the pandemic, and I was feeling like, I don't know, I want to do something. I thought about actually looking into a trip to go to Peru. That fell through. I really wanted to do something that was going to help me get out of my mind, connect with my body. And this other program I wanted to do wasn't available till the end of the year. And my wife literally said to me, she's like, hey, there's this lady from the UK who comes to Romania, and it's 2 hours because we're in Sibiu. And it's like in a couple weeks. Do you want to do it? And I was like, whoa. And it just seemed really timely. I saw a video with Chris on it, and I was just like, the energy of her and what she was talking about, some part of me was like, you need to do it, even though another part of me was very much like what is this? And so forth. And so I showed up the first day, and I was literally this close to walking out, because I think a part of me knew this is exactly where you want to be, and a much bigger part of me, a more conditioned part of me was like what is this? Like, literally, this is totally different than anything you've ever explored. And yet, ironically, it brought all these pieces together. All these different perspectives kind of fit into the core, I don't want to call it framework, but perspective that to me was just like, yes, 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 on a conceptual level. But in my body, as much as my mind wanted to object, my body was like, hell yes. And just, it was always this dance of like, I don't know if I can take another step, but this is a little too much. But my body was like, yes. And one thing led to another. And I'm now in my second wheel.
How did this medicine help you, and how did this medicine help your community?
Oh, geez. There's a lot of ways that this has helped me. First and foremost, it helped me reconnect to my heart. I always had a big heart. I always sensed, my favorite word is magic. Everyone who knows me knows I love the word magic. And not magic like a card trick, not magic like stage performance, but this sense that there's something more to life than what we can see with our two eyes. And as a kid, I always had that. And I grew up in a family of, mostly people in the medical profession. It was very much like what you see in front of you is what there is. And so I also had a really tough upbringing. I mean, we all do, but that was just squeezed out of me in a way. And this really helped me get around my Ferrari of an engine of a mind that's really powerful, but also was terribly scared of so many things. Most of all, just what was in my heart. And so this gave me a way, it was the only thing that allowed me to not just bypass the mind, but it gave my mind something to do that let it kind of play along so that I could connect with these other parts of me, my body, soul, you might say, the energetic level and so forth, and all kind of work together. And that for me, everybody in my group knew me as like, all right, I'm going to ask the mental question, wait, how does this fit and what's this and that? Because I was trying to piece together, and Chris would always just kind of nod and be like, okay, just trust, have the experience. Your soul knows what you need and what you want. And it took a long time, but I got to a point where eventually I could trust that. And so it's totally transformed what I do. I went from working in tech to now helping people really escape what I call the survival story, the grind game. I got to kill myself and work hard, and to reconnect to that magic and the dreams of their heart, and in the most practical ways. And that's what this medicine has done for me in my life. In terms of the community, I'm going to bring it down to I'll actually answer that in two ways. One, I didn't realize how much energy I was putting out into the world that was full of anxiety, stress, and fear, that I was constantly just pulsing. If the sun is sending out rays of light, that's all I was sending out, just fear, anxiety, tightness, and so forth. And the day-to-day ripple effects of that are, I can't even calculate, but especially in this second year, I've seen how different I am going through these practices and things. And so that's probably one of the biggest ways, even though I can't measure that. The one way I can measure is this medicine, I think I can safely say, I hope my wife doesn't mind, but we're both very honest about it. I think it saved our marriage. We were in a really, really rough spot. All marriages get tested and so forth, but we were just in this, we said we kind of came together in this sort of wounded versions of ourselves, and we were trying to kind of rebuild that, and that wasn't what we needed to do. And in a way, life was constantly giving us stuff to shed the wounds, and this medicine allowed, my wife did the wheel with me, and is still doing it with me, and it's something that allowed us to take our time, heal ourselves individually, and then also go through that delicate process of seeing, okay, who are we now as a couple? And our relationship is totally different, and it's amazing. It's not all great, but it's something that it's like, man, love is so different to me now, and I have such admiration and respect for her, and the ripple effects of that for my daughter, and how that's going to influence her own relationships and stuff is, I can't calculate it, but I can see it. And I am so, so grateful, because I grew up mostly in a family where all I saw was divorce, I saw conflict, I saw all this stuff. And this medicine has completely shifted that story. That's been passed down for generations in my family. And that I can honestly, so I get chills even now, saying that for my daughter, she can change that story, or that story has been changed, and she can step into her own.
Is there a memorable moment that you would like to share with us from the wheel?
I could talk your ears off of how many moments there were. There's so many, but there's one that was like, I can feel it even in my head and body, that for me was a turning point, as far as that's the point where my mind finally said, I can't understand this and I don't need to. And from there, everything just went so much deeper for me. It was in the north, so it was my third training or module, whatever you want to call it. And we do soul retrievals, and I love soul retrievals. I love all of it, but the soul retrievals, to me, there's something incredibly, just speaks to my heart. And I got really activated, really triggered. I don't dream that much, but I had this dream that was like, it stirred me and made me feel this visceral fear. And that night at like 3 a.m, I messaged Chris, and I'm like, Chris, I don't know if you picked anybody, because she usually does a demo the last day. And I'm like, please, I don't know what's going on here, but I feel like I need to step up and ask if you'd be willing to do the demo. She's like, sure. And so she said yes. And next thing I know, I'm in front of 35 people. And she does this soul retrieval. And I remember, first of all, physically feeling like this energy going through me I never felt before. I had this coughing kind of thing that had showed up in other modules that fully kind of came up and out, and I knew that was happening to release something. And then you get a power animal, which is a way to kind of embody the new energy that's helpful for you, that's practical for you. And as soon as Chris told me what it was a lion. I got it. I was like, my body was like, yes. And then you kind of play with the energy of a lion and see what is the wisdom in that, what's the story in that. And I remember saying to her, I was like, I want to get on all fours in front of everybody, which normally I wouldn't do, but I'm like, I want to freaking crawl around like this lion. And the moment I put my hand down, literally just like this, it was like I felt a confidence and a strength and almost like a reclaiming of something in me that you could have told me to do all that and I would never have been able to do. But there was something in that moment, I will never forget that. The moment I put my paw down, you could say, it was like, whoa. And it felt so like yes in me. And I think I even let out a roar like a lion that people told me afterwards that they could feel it. And I wasn't doing it for them. It just came out of me. And that's the thing that's so amazing, because the whole first year was really about finding my voice. And while I was very strong in my career, it was this inauthentic strength in the sense that it wasn't in a space I really cared about as much. It wasn't me being totally me. And there was just something, even to this day, like I have a bracelet here, and here's my lion. And I've had plenty of power animals, but it was something where there's my lion. My daughter knows, she gets me stuff all the time with the lion, because it was just, that's the beauty of the mythic level, you know, that we do soul retrievals in. It's like it goes beyond logic. Words fall short, but you can feel it. And it's this visceral experience, and the absolute perfect animal I needed to step up and out, but not in a way that was trying to make up for anything. It was just embracing this lion that was in me and that was ready to come out. And so I will never forget that, and I can still feel it.
Have you witnessed any moment of transformation in somebody else that was memorable for you and you want to share?
Yeah, I've seen tons of people transform in really powerful ways, and I don't want to necessarily get into the specifics of their personal details and stuff. I think I can say generally the thing that I always see, and it's amazing to see over the course of each part of the wheel, you see this sort of successive softening of people. If somebody shows up and they're really mental, they start to soften as far as trusting their heart. If you see somebody who's really rigid, they start to soften as far as this. When I say soften, I just mean there's a moving back towards the middle, whatever the polarity might be. That's a beautiful thing to see. And so by the time you get to the north, it's like everybody's in it. And there's this shift that happens both individually and collectively that then supports you individually. And so I've seen that with this group. I saw it with the group last year. And it's an amazing thing to see. So in a way, you're going through massive change and transformation. You're seeing it mirrored back to you and everybody else. And seeing other people show up, step up, go through the difficult things, letting go, shedding, all that fun, stepping into their power. It just inspires you to keep doing so as well. So the short answer is yes, and the long answer is yes. I've seen a lot of transformation.
What would you say to people who want to join this path, who want to join the medicine wheel next year? What would you tell them?
People who want to or are thinking about it?
Yeah, people who want to or think about it. People who think about it. You're right.
Okay. So if you're thinking about the wheel, I would say without hesitation, it will likely be the most transformative thing you can do. It'll also be one of the toughest things you could do, and it'll be one of the most rewarding things you could do. When I say toughest, I mean what makes it tough is we don't realize the day-to-day how much crap, I hope that's okay to say on there, we're carrying around and that we're spreading in the world that's exhausting us, that's literally sucking the life out of our soul and spirit. And that's the only story we know. And it's so convincing and compelling because that's what everybody else is doing. This medicine will help you to release that. And that's why you're listening to this. And if you're listening to me ramble on here or whatever about my stuff, then there's something in it that you're connecting to. And I can only say that everybody who has said yes, and we all have our stories about like saying yes, showing up even though we weren't sure about it, that we're so grateful that we've done it. That's not to say that it's going to be at all like you think it's going to be. It won't be. And that's what you need. But it's going to be amazing in every sense of the word. And so I would say, do it, do it, do it. And you can thank me later.
Thank you.